if his political alliance wins. Mahathir told a news conference that they have not decided who will be Prime Minister because the Prime Minister candidate is only relevant if their party, which is hoping for a big win on its own amid fights with allies in the ruling coalition. The Election Commission is due to fix a date within the week for a vote, which must be held within 60 days of Parliament's dissolution. Despite his non-Nigerian status and a health scare this year, Mahathir said he will defend his parliamentary seat in Langawi Island. He also warned that a win by the ruling UMNO party could see imprisoned ex-Prime Minister Najib Razak pardoned and let off the hook. Mahathir became the world's oldest head of government at 93 and oversaw graft charges against Najib and other UMNO leaders. The United Nations General Assembly has convened an emergency session to discuss Moscow-backed illegal referendums to annex part of eastern Ukraine, with Kyiv's envoy accusing Russia of being a terrorist state hours after it conducted deadly strikes across its country that killed at least 14 civilians. Ukraine's UN ambassador Sergei Kelsista told the UN General Assembly that the entire world has once again seen the true face of the terrorist state that kills Ukrainians. Kelsista explained that deliberate targeting of civilians is a war crime, noting that by launching missile attacks on civilians sleeping in their homes or rushing to work, children going to schools, Russia has proven once again that it is a terrorist state that must be deterred in the strongest possible ways. He said Russia's illegal annexations of Ukrainian territory pose an existential threat to the UN, and the international community needs to defend the principles of the UN Charter. The General Assembly is expected to vote on a draft resolution this week condemning Moscow-backed illegal referendums to annex parts of eastern Ukraine, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson in violation of international law. Authorities in Central America have disclosed that storm has drenched Guatemala and El Salvador with torrential rains after it re-emerged in the Pacific, propelling Nicaragua on its part. Officials disclosed that 1 million people in Nicaragua were left without electricity as a result of Storm Julia, and more than 13,000 households were forced to evacuate due to flooding and severe rain. According to them, the weakening former hurricane deluged Guatemala and El Salvador with torrential rains after it re-emerged in the Pacific, while Nicaragua was also devastated on its part. Salvadoran officials said 10 people, including 5 soldiers, were killed. The soldiers, according to reports, died when a wall collapsed in a house where they had sought refuge in the town of Comasagua. Security forces had been conducting anti-gang raids there. Meanwhile, authorities in El Salvador also said that more than 1,000 people were evacuated. And here again are the highlights of the world at noon. In Nigeria, one of the victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack has been reportedly killed by terrorists while returning to his hometown after his release. Malaysia's 97-year-old former leader, Mahathir Mohamad, has announced that he will defend his seat in the general elections expected next month, though he wouldn't say whether he would be Prime Minister a third time if his political alliance wins. The United Nations General Assembly has convened an emergency session to discuss Moscow-backed illegal referendums to annex part of eastern Ukraine, with Kyiv's envoy accusing Russia of being a terrorist state as after it conducted deadly strikes across its country that killed at least 14 civilians. And that was The World at Noon, edited by Nathaniel Oyegoke and delivered by Titi Lokbe Ajiboye. News Talk today discusses 2 financial subheads in the 2023 budget presented by President Muhammadu Buhari to the joint session of the National Assembly recently. The News Talk is written by Adeboye Kukwala.
The budget presentation of 20.51 trillion naira by President Muhammadu Buhari for the next fiscal year on Friday last week revealed the largest budget size ever in the history of the country's yearly financial proposals. The analysis of the financial proposal indicates that 6.3 trillion naira will go for debt servicing, which represents 30.77% of the budget, while personnel cost, which is estimated at 4.99 trillion naira, represents 24.33% of the entire budget. The above analysis of the financial statements shows that debt servicing and personnel costs would take a total of 11.3 trillion naira, which represents 55.1% of the 2023 budget. New Stock Budget Survey showed that personnel cost has been progressively increasing since 2017. For instance, the personnel cost rose by 7 billion naira or 2.41% in 2018 as it gulped 2.97 trillion naira and dropped in 2019. It again soared in 2020 to 3.05 trillion naira, representing an increase of 760 billion naira of the previous year. The personnel cost has continued to jump as it hits an all-time high in the next year financial estimates. The astronomical index of personnel cost and debt servicing have generated sharp reactions from financial experts and an average Nigerian. Presently, the country's debt has been estimated at 41.60 trillion naira, while President Muhammadu Buhari has disclosed that another 8.8 trillion naira would be borrowed to finance the projected 2023 budget deficit. News Talk posits that the issue of not having a debt problem by using the debt to GDP benchmark might not assuage the growing concern of Nigerians to the revenue performance trajectory. News Talk is of the view that the geometric country's debt could be attributed to imprudent spending, which includes the use of loan to prosecute non-revenue yielding projects. It is quite disheartening that virtually all the various sectors of the economy are moribund. The public companies of the 80s, like the steel rolling mills, machine tools, cement manufacturing companies, and foreign merchandisers, have all relocated to neighboring countries where power supply is steady. The pertinent question is of what significance are the capital projects constructed with foreign loans obtained by the federal and state governments. News Talk posits that it is high time the government at all levels in the country departed from borrowing to prosecute non-revenue yielding projects. It amounts to a perpetual remortgaging of the country's future and resources to spend loans on capital non-revenue yielding projects. It has also been observed that the
Sorry for that court and that news talk. And that news talk by Deboye Kukola examined the amount allocated for debt servicing and overhead costs in the 2023 budget and called for caution by federal government on the soaring debt profile on the country and overhead cost. The piece was read by Temi Tokbe Olayiwola. For more about us, you can visit www.osbcng.org. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon. OSBC Radio 104.5 FM Iliawi Okebale Oshobo. We are sorry for that break in transmission. It was due to a technical hitch. rédíò ọ̀ṣun ilé àwíyé òkè baálẹ̀ nílùú òṣogbo níbẹ̀ náà làwọn àtà tí ń kàn sí yín ẹ dákun ẹ̀ má bínú pé a lọ láfẹ́fẹ́ kínní kan ló ṣẹ́jú ń bẹ̀rùn á padà sáfẹ́fẹ́ láàrin ìṣẹ́jú kan sí méjì ní àmọ́ kó tó di pé a máa mú àwọn nǹkan míì wá fún wa ẹ jẹ́ kí n tún fi tó yín létí díẹ̀ lára àwọn ètò tí a ti là kalẹ̀ fún yín mo ti kí yín kulé lẹ́ẹ̀kan